To start this regular meeting of the Columbia Board of Selectmen, Tuesday, May 6th, year 2025. This is a hybrid meeting online and here, and we will discuss things. Once you're called upon, please give your name and address. And we will do it in an orderly fashion. I'm going to limit it to 2 minutes, as it says right here. We have a little bit more information. That's on my decision to let you keep going, but if I ask you to let somebody else speak, you've had your 2 minutes, 2.5, let somebody else speak, you will come back to raise your hand again, okay? First thing, if you all stand and join me to the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I move to approve the agenda as presented with one addition to add appointment of Marine Patrol and resignations. I apologize, I don't like to add anything, but we are using the key system, and we've also had Marine Patrol down there on the gate earlier this year to accommodate people getting their vote in. It wasn't on the agenda, we need to add it. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. I move to approve the Board of Selectmen special meeting minutes for April 8th, 2025. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. I move to approve the Board of Selectmen regular meeting minutes, April 15th, 2025. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Aye. Audience of citizens, anybody with anything that's not on the agenda tonight? Yes, ma'am.
Ian Nick, 103 Lake Forest. As chairman of Conservation and Agriculture Commission, we'd like to read a statement into the minutes for the selectmen. And I have a speaker who can talk.
Okay.
Oh, you move over.
Nick Ferris, 281 Route 66, speaking as a member of the Columbia Conservation and Agriculture Commission. At its meeting on May 1st, 2025, the Columbia Conservation and Agriculture Commission discussed the proposed amendments to section 21.5.1 of the Town of Columbia zoning regulations. It reviewed guidance provided by the town's right to farm ordinance and the Connecticut Department of Agriculture's zoning regulations for livestock best practices publication, as well as input received from the Columbia farming community in attendance. After its thorough review, the commission unanimously approved a motion expressing its support for the proposed amendments and will recommend to the planning that it approve those amendments without further delay.
Thank you. Anyone else? Is there a hand? Seeing none. Moving along. Old business, the establishment of fiscal year 25-26 annual budget town meeting. The duly qualified electors and voters of the town of Columbia, Connecticut, and any other persons entitled to vote upon any of the matters contained in this warrant are notified to meet in Yeoman's Hall, 323 Route 87, Columbia, Connecticut, on Tuesday, May 13th, 2025, at 7 p.m. for the following purpose. Clause 1, to take action on the proposed annual town budget for fiscal year 2026. Copies of the proposed budget are available online at www.columbiact.org, as well as in the town clerk's office. That's it? Yes, sir. Great. Discussion, we're setting the meeting for the budget, let the people decide. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. I'll send this around. I move to authorize the purchase of $13,000 for the boat launch gate access control system with camera security monitoring. I also, you have to vote on that one. To do it, I move to approve the transfer of $13,000 from contingency to lake management contracted services. Tell us about the system.
So the vendor we've chosen is the vendor that was recommended and is used in the University of Connecticut and in our school system. So they're very well known, very high quality, really good service. So this is a top quality card scan system that's totally controllable from the Murphy House through our computer database of anyone who would like access and that is qualified for access through the gate. Right now, it also has a camera that would be very close to the gate for better viewing. And the camera would also be online where whoever, like myself or Stephen or Peter Dunnick, our facilities manager, or our recreation director, Jake Plitt, wants access, they could 24/7 watch that camera to see who's going in and out of the gate. So all that, this is a complete turnkey package. We added an extra bit of money. The total quote's $11,437, but we added some in case we can't pull the conduit for the electrical, because we fear there might be a little trouble in pulling that. There might be some excavation required from DPW and any other snags that might pop up. We just put a little contingency in there, the unknown. So this is what we're recommending, and just so you know, the contingency presently has 23,323 left, minus 13,000 would give us with a remaining balance of $10,323 to get through the next 6 weeks of the year.
Any questions, board?
No. Yeah, I've got a couple. So is there any training of the software and system that's included in this?
I don't know that, Chris.
I mean, there will be. We're not buying it if we're not, people are not trained.
Right, because I mean, you'd hate to have people to kind of figure it out.
And we'll involve Novus in it so that the connectivity and everything works through our system that we use for monitoring.
And do we think 7 days of cloud retention is long enough? I see that there's an option for not much more for 30 days of retention.
Well, normally, if something happens, you know about it within a reasonable amount of time, but that is, right now, the annual cost for the remote access is $313 for the cloud. There is an upcharge of
$85 to allow for 30 days of retention.
right.
So if it's $85 for the year, which it looks like,
We'll do
well,
it.
just something to consider.
That's fine.
And we think 100 PFOBs is enough?
A what?
100 PFOBs?
Well, we've never given out over 50. So
I don't think it'll be less for the price of time we may have to charge.
Yeah, we can always get more if we needed it, I assume.
Alright, so add the 30-day.
Now, this is being used in other towns?
The University of Connecticut and our school system.
Okay.
with this provider, so you've got experience with this provider.
Okay.
This will be rolled out when we are done with the town attorney. That everybody who gets a cane will be signing a pledge, a contract, whatever we wanna call it. That they will obey the rules. That they will be held accountable for their actions, their, whatever they do with that card to put things on the lake. I stress it so much. We're going to have cameras that work, that I can look at the crease lines in your face. Okay? So,
Tariff and duty adjustment clause, which I know is popular, we're putting in a lot of our contracts, is this something you think is gonna have a little impact, because it's, the equipment's available, and it's not gonna be something.
what, I'm sorry, what clause?
There's a clause in scope of work which provides for duty and tariff adjustments, right, with what's going on in the economy. It's,
We'll try and buy US made goods.
Well, they're saying if all of a sudden they can't get the camera and they're hit with a $20 tariff, they're gonna pass it on. So like, we'd have to evaluate whether it's. You know, execute the contract with it, if the tariff surcharge what it is. We'll find out when we sign the contract, if that locks in the price at that point.
I'm not sure this is the discussion.
Mr. Tom.
I understand, Mr. Powell, I see a couple hands go up. Mr. Powell,
Bob Powell, 6 Sunnyside Road. Does this camera have recording capabilities?
yes,
Okay.
that's the 30 days we're getting.
Okay.
Mr. Beck,
Well, is it just viewable from Murphy House, or will the town hall be able to log into it?
we will be able to log in here. Ms. Donick,
Is there an annual fee?
Yes. $313.
we'll get that from the first card.
Yeah,
Any more discussion? Any discussion? No. So on the first motion to authorize the purchase, 13,000 of the gate launch access control system, all those in favor? Aye. Or move to approve the transfer of 13,000 contingency to Lake Management Contracted Services, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
And that'll move on to 5.5.
Yep.
Next.
I move to approve a resolution establishing a special event committee known as the America 250 Columbia, Connecticut Committee, effective May 6, 2025. If you didn't know, next year is our 250th, our nation's birthday. Sometimes I wonder how we survived that long. But the truth of it is, we're gonna celebrate. We should celebrate. And I want Columbia to be a part of that. I've already sat down with a couple of people. I talked to our rec director, kind of gave him a blueprint of what I would like to see on that 4th of July day. But it's gonna take a committee. So we put it together. There is a full write-up to establish this committee. Currently, we're looking for somebody to chair it. But and volunteers. So that's just for that.
I have a question. The, you've got a list of first, the committee shall consist of 6 members, and you have from different, positions, like one will be the town historian, one will represent the board of selectmen, member from the historic society, member from the Columbia Public Schools, one from the Saxony Library, and another member from the general public. If we can't find somebody from those different, areas, can we just find somebody else from the public?
Yes.
Okay.
I think it's not limited to 6. We would take any volunteers who want to be, there's certainly people on the established committee. We're gonna hold it to 6, we can have more people who attend
Okay,
and
so this
volunteer
is-
and stuff.
We
I
can
just think
modify the
that
resolution too.
in our town, we have 6 really core
Right,
departments we'd like to have input from.
yeah,
Right, this is one committee or one person from the general public, which I would certainly be in favor of more than one.
you're right,
If it was,
right.
if there was.
I've been checking around.
Well, if you wanna modify the resolution, this was just the stab we took at it.
So there is one, so on the sixth, whereas in the first page, where it says, whereas the town council, can you replace that with the board of selectmen?
Oh,
I
yeah,
assume this is probably based off of
of another town,
other towns with different form of government.
whereas town council, this should be a
Last
BOS.
one. Yeah.
Got it, okay, I'll make that change.
And maybe say the committee shall consist of at least 6. So, which means you could add
Consists of
at least 6.
Okay,
And, I don't know how we could change it, but
And how is the chair appointed? Is it appointed by the board of selectmen or is, and then it's just the vice chair that will be appointed by the committee members?
it's up to you guys.
Well, it's silence, that's
Right, so you wanna add that?
I'm thinking the chair should be appointed by the,
Board of selectmen.
yeah. We have to find somebody and then
You have a volunteer
we have a volunteer.
in your comments.
Oh, comments,
I would like to, who is that? You got a damn name.
hold on,
Careful.
Olivia Evans,
Oh, okay.
there you go, we already have a volunteer.
She said, I'd like to be on the July 4th committee. Didn't say I'd like to chair it. Since you're the first one, congratulations. She just left us. There's gonna be plenty, there's gonna be people on this thing, okay?
It would be a
Believe me,
pleasure.
I'll call in favors.
Representative Joseph. Well, I don't know how to word it, that if we can't get these people.
I'm just saying to have it, have specifications in section 2 in terms of the, different participants in town. I'd rather keep it open-ended, where if somebody, I think we can recruit people from throughout the town to do that with different.
And target those organizations.
Yeah, similar like we did with the HVAC committee, where we found certain people that would be interested. I think it's just, I think you're limiting yourself if you
So
just.
this is section 2. we're
Yeah.
Talking about where we define what
Term
boards we wanna
representation,
target
yeah.
membership on.
Maybe we hope to include, it can be, we can, get people from the public and hope to include people from those different.
Or instead of, we could say suggested appointments would
Yeah.
include,
Yeah,
and then it's,
right,
those are just options.
Sounds good.
You could
Yeah.
see, if you could say. Invitees will include a member of, and all these boards, and then the last thing you could say is, and. Members from the general public. Okay. I've already heard from the library and a couple of other
oh, do
committees,
they have, there's somebody over there that'd be interested.
that's what they tell me.
Okay.
Okay, we'll modify this. Get it back to you on the next one, so you did. Okay. And Olivia Evans, be your smiley.
I like that.
New business, 9, Columbia Lake Dam, okay, so. Welcome, see everybody here tonight, why? Brendan, you're here? Yep. Okay. I'm gonna give a summary of the meeting that you and I had. And if there's some things that I leave out, raise your hand, I'll look for clarification, but I have a pretty good memory.
Yep.
Mr. Sottergren asked to see me. And so we made an appointment, he came in, he sat down, and we talked. And he basically put it to me, laid out his concern. He has a boat that has by serial number an over horsepower engine, by serial number, okay? He basically recited the town ordinance to me, which states the horsepower will go by serial. And, I'll have to read it, but, because he knew it better than I did, what is that word about the concern? No person shall operate on the waters of Columbia, a boat, this is what it says now. No person shall operate on the waters of Columbia Lake, a boat with an outboard engine whose horsepower exceeds 80, or a boat with an inboard engine whose horsepower exceeds 150. That's the ordinance, right? That's the ordinance. Policy. So Mr. Sodergren had a boat that had too big of an engine by serial number. So he went to a boat. Purchased it from a boat dealer, went to or purchased?
Purchased it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And said, this engine cannot exceed 150. So the dealer said, I can govern it down, throttle it down, make modifications to this. And he got it to 135. Mr. Sodergren came to me and said, my boat's been on the water for the last 2 or 3 years, I think it was 3. I followed all the rules. He showed me paperwork from the boat dealer. Saying it was on a dynameter, it said 135. That's what I was told by everybody who said, if you want to look at the true numbers of what they puts out, you gotta put it on a dynameter. It said it was done by a dynameter, registered 135. He came to me of his own accord and said, I spent a lot of money on this boat. I read the ordinance. I had it modified lower. It didn't say I couldn't have it modified. I have it modified by a boat dealer in South Windsor. And on a dynameter says 135. I paid a lot of money for the boat. I paid a lot of money to have the engine meet the specs needed to get it on the lake. It's been on the lake for 3 seasons already. I said, but the serial number says much. He says, I understand that. That's why I'm coming to see you, to tell you I obey the rules. I don't speed around the lake. I had it modified down to 135. It was tested to 135. I spent money for this boat. And if I can't get it on the lake, you know, I'm out a lot of money. So I put feelers out. I talked to a couple of people. Did I get anything wrong?
Nope.
That's where we are, right? I said, go back to LMAC and explain it to them. We went back to LMAC. LMAC said, we're not touching it. Board of Selectmen deals with this stuff. Okay. It's a tough spot sitting here sometimes. I mean, I love the job, but I gotta tell you, it's a tough spot.
I just want to add one thing, and the concern is that going forward with the new ordinances, that would be, they would be saying that I can't do what I've done.
I was in my New Rockney speech, man.
Sorry.
I got it, so. But I go to, I mean, a lot of these meetings, when it comes to the lake in Elmac. This person does this on the lake. With no concern for regulation about having a spotter and a ski boat. And this person is grandfather, although grandfather doesn't exist anymore in the text. I asked about it last meeting we had. Grandfather's not, I said, the grandfather's not in this. We don't talk about that anymore. This person's got too many docks and a raft and a mooring and, you know, this. And this person paints their seawall. And this person gets an excavator and digs out his back lawn and puts sand there. And this person does this. And I have asked, I have begged, I've been truly upset. I need to truly have. This is it, no more ordinances in front of us. He came to me. And he said, I have a concern. It got a little heated. It got a little heated. And he made a comment, and you know, I had probably just met with another department that deals with the town, and they gave me no satisfaction of any desire to work with us. And so I said, do your best. I'm done. Do your best. And they apologized and they said, listen, I'm just, I'm upset. I get it. At some point, the unofficial grandfather invisible clause has got to stop. And I say it's got to stop right now, okay? But he came to me 6 weeks ago. His boat has been on the lake, and I looked up, he's never once had a problem on the lake, never been asked to slow it down, never been asked to stop doing this, never been asked or had a safety issue, nothing. So if anybody comes to me, whatever happens tonight, I'm telling you, if anybody comes to me tomorrow and tells me about grandfathering, I'm done. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. If you're leaving it up to the board of selectmen, you haven't come to me before this, I'm not doing it. And I gotta be honest with you, I have action out there that I've been asking for a couple of different situations on the lake. People that have done things that they're not right, people that have put a permit for a dock that meets specifications, and then when they get approval, we turn around and turn our back to it, and we don't go back and check it, they add 3 or 4 more feet, okay? It stops tonight. I'm inclined to let Mr. Sondergren have his boat on the lake. But I'm just me. Okay? So, this is a board. We go by majority. And if you have a question for Mr. Sondergren, he's right back there. He's been to 3 meetings that I said to come back. He's been to 3 of them, waiting to get in and actually talk to us. So, he's here, you have a question, or you just want to state your piece, or you just want to roll to, I'm talking to the board. If you just want to roll into a vote, but I know there's a lot of people here that want to talk about it, I understand. I know there's been paperwork out there lost in the archives that we have found in 1990, 1972, that Board of Selectmen have said, this is the horsepower that goes on the lake. It's been notifiers, it's been this, but the ordinance says, and it's poorly written, horsepower that exceeds 150. He paid to have the boat modified. So, comments? Chris?
I guess like my question is more on the policy as far as establishing the serial number on the motor. As I heard in prior meetings, accusations that there were those that maybe says 80 horsepower on the side of their motor, but they had it modified to increase. So I guess my question would be, for considering grandfathering or doing anything. I would think that if we're going to take into account dyno, then I think it should also be a tool that we can use. If there's suspicion of someone on a lake who's got 80 horsepower motor and they tuned it up and now it's running 110 miles an hour, that we have the policy means to be able to get it tested and not be fighting, oh, the guy goes, oh, it's the serial number of the motor. No, we can rely on a dyno, whether it increases or decreases horsepower.
The problem is it's expensive, and the nearest one, I believe, is South Windsor, and then the next one is, like in Candlewood Lake or something.
Educate me on how reliable the dyno is.
Well, I was told by a boat owner that I know very well, who said, the only way you're proving it is to get it on a dynamometer. That's it. All right, I'll take. Yes,
Martha Carter, 34 County Road. I just want to clarify a statement that was made. A dynamometer does not govern the horsepower of the engine. It simply measures it. So there's no adjustment to that motor. It's measuring
He
the
didn't-
power.
correct. So after he adjusted the motor, I'll use that word, he put it on a dynometer, however we want to say it. And he pulled 135. So it was
So
after.
you put a governor on your motor?
I didn't do anything. The dealer, I had no idea what they did. I said, I need this boat.
That's not clear. Thank you.
Because he's not a mechanic, you can't say it's not clear. What he's saying to you, if we listen, and I wanna be cordial with all of this stuff. He told the person he was buying it from, this is what he needed. And apparently they said, we can do that, we can modify this.
What they did is.
Yeah,
they
we will
installed
test
spacer in
it.
the throttle linkage.
Spacer in the linkage.
Sorry, they did what?
They put a spacer in the linkage to
With Rob.
reduce the
In the
throttle.
throttle linkage.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so
Can I
James
need
Lock,
your name? Yeah.
James Lock 24 Doubleday Road. It sounds like they just made the engine a lot more restrictive, probably restricted the airflow on it. And a dyno, to answer your question, dyno is the most accurate way to get engine horsepower. It's more accurate than what a manufacturer will tell you, and it's more accurate than like a sticker on the side of a car. The dyno is 100% accurate.
Yeah, I've got experience. We used to do that with motorcycles and race them. So that's what we used to measure.
Yes, sir.
Mike's Police, 14 Lakeview Park West. You know, this is not about Mr. Sager, I'm sure he's an old guy. But if you allow D2 to be allowed on the lake, you'll never know what the horsepower is of any boat.
If I allow what?
If you allow D2ing, you reduce the horsepower of the lake in any way.
But right now,
Yeah.
I don't care if you do that tomorrow or if you did it 2 years ago and you never came to us and say, we did this. We're starting serial number. Okay? There's no more grandfather. If you said my boat's been on that lake 15 years because way back when Grandpa Joe modified this and you're serious and you never came to the board. It's done.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
not talking about grandfather. You said that you were inclined to let him on the water.
Right.
With this 200 horsepower boat, that's been detuned to 135 horsepower. What I'm saying is, if you allow that, you'll never know the horsepower of any boat on the lake. Because if he can have it detuned, he can have it retuned. So there's nothing to stop that, and he doesn't have to hand you a piece of paper to say it's been retuned. And it's not him, that goes for anybody on the lake.
So it's just like he said, somebody could boost up their engine, we wouldn't know it anyway. Thank you. Mary.
Mary Reichel, 34 Italy. Just, Steve, a quick question before I have some comments to present. You mentioned the meeting that you had with Brendan. Prior to that, LMAC and Marine Patrol were alerted that this was a 200 horsepower. My understanding was that there were a series of inspections by Marine Patrol, a letter that went to him to ask him to remove, which he did remove his boat for a period of time. So it hasn't been used for 3 seasons collectively, and a penalty, but then you waive the penalty. Is that, so there's more history to this than just one meeting
Right.
and 3 seasons on?
We've had a couple of meetings. The first meeting was when he came and he told me, and he said, I got my boat off. Okay, I'm still waiting for other things to happen, so I understand that.
I have a written statement, but I have a couple, 2, 3 statements with one question for Brendan, who you asked that we could ask. You did a lot of due diligence, and or who sold you the boat did a lot of due diligence in terms of what you could do based on what our town ordinance says.
Yeah.
Doesn't say we can modify, it doesn't also say we can't modify.
Correct.
So either or, what was your due diligence to the town of Columbia in terms of would I be allowed to do this? Knowing that there's an ordinance and there may be other policies.
Well, my due diligence to the town of Columbia was doing the research on the ordinances. I read the ordinances, I knew what they said, and they said what they said, right? So, you know, if there was a way to, you know, if I bought an 80 horsepower outboard, I would have gone to the town to ask permission to do what the town says I can already do based on the ordinances, right? The ordinances tell me what I can and can't do. I mean, I was not supposed to ask for permission. I mean, I'm not gonna, you know, you don't ask for permission. There's stuff you ask for permission for, right? You want a new roof, you pull a permit, like stuff like that. You don't, I mean, I don't, there's no policy, there's no procedure to ask for permission every time that you put your foot on the lake. As far as I'm concerned, you show up at, you know, Marine Patrol at the gate, when you put it on the lake, they inspect it and they say yes or no.
Thank you.
So that's.
Yeah, you didn't ask for permission, but it sounds like you're asking for forgiveness now.
Well, no, I'm not asking for, I don't believe I did anything wrong, so there's no forgiveness to be asked for.
Well, let me enter into the record the following 3 comments and be as quick as I can in 2 minutes. First off, our town ordinance does designate 180 for outboards, 150 for inboard outboards. There is no, excuse me, 80, thank you much. And there are policies that do exist that this or past board of selectmen have addressed. And if I may, in 1997, the BOS did designate engine serial number as the approved horsepower limit. That was 1997. A copy has been presented to this board. In 2000, the board of selectmen reaffirmed that the town ordinance and the BOS policy that the existing horsepower permitted for the boats should be enforced. In 2001, the board of selectmen reaffirmed the boat inspection policy that we have the right to inspect, and that a resident state trooper, deep, or the Marine Patrol could check parts, and part of the Marine Patrol, and this gentleman and the gentleman before him, Mark Pullman, who were part of the Marine Patrol I spoke with, they check hull identification numbers. This has been done for decades, and engine serial number. Sounds like we're changing a policy for a regulation. In 2023, this board again reaffirmed the town ordinance horsepower limit. And that is because we're working to revise the town ordinances for the sake of the lake. My second comment. There are unintended consequences if we allow one. And there's a can of worms that's gonna be opened that can we put them all back in. Converting a modified engine to its original horsepower. So you get it on the lake, you take out the part that cost $110 to do in 2.5 hours. And we now have over horsepower. We at least now have through engine serial number that designation. If we allow one, what does it to stop anyone else to continue? What prevents the motorboat engines then for all to say they be modified? And there are environmental and unsafe risks that we would face. This lake water quality is a tipping point. We all know that. We all now, for the first time, it's been suggested that we start alum treatments. The more we put heavier boats, boats that have higher designation, if we cannot enforce the horsepower, how are we gonna enforce that? The more we're getting towards the tipping point of this lake going south. So my final comment is, on the registration certificate for, and I have copies of this, Brendan. His registration certificate says 135 horsepower. When I asked, and I had a direct conversation with the Department of Motor Vehicles, the application for any vessel says, what's your total horsepower? And it was verified today that the total horsepower has to be the horsepower of the engine number, 200. His registration says 135. That's not accurate. So much as it's been tough because due diligence was done on one side, I think it's even tougher for what's gonna happen if we allowed one. Because one will be the domino effect to be more. Thank you.
Zero balloon, I don't know what that is. Nothing on a Zoom bomb. You figure it out before you bring them out. Put them in the. I'll take this young lady.
Kristen Locke, 24 Doubleday Road. I'm just wondering why, like, if this man had to prove that his horsepower was low enough, if there's an issue, why don't we just put it on the boat owner to go get a dynometer reading and prove that they need it or don't? Instead of belaboring serial numbers and what the state of Connecticut says the registration says, it just seems like we would put the ownership on the boat owner to prove it. Oh. If there's a question.
Yeah, I don't think we should. If the serial number says 150, I don't think we can ask everybody who wants to put a boat on the water to go and spend $400 to $500 to
I'm
have.
not saying to do that, I'm saying if there's an identified issue, if they're saying that person's boat is tuned over, that person's boat is, they come to you and say, hey, I had this tuned down. Like, why wouldn't we honor a reading that shows what it is?
I understand. I can't answer it, I'm just telling you, I understand, because I'm trying to, I look at his, he has one that says it was on a dynometer, it's 135.
No, I understand, I agree, he should be allowed to put his boat on the lake, I just know that there's a group of residents newer to town that are tired of the lake feeling like an HOA. Where rules are constantly changed depending on whether you live on or off the lake.
Thank you.
And that is absolutely not the case. The rules are for all town residents. They are not, there are no different separate rules for someone who lives on or off the lake. That is an unfair statement.
It's not
And it's
unfair.
not- it's not- it's
I'm
not-
a resident of this town who's been to these meetings.
Okay, but that's not.
Kristen, this is not a debate between the two of you, she made a statement.
Yeah.
Henry.
I support what Mary has said, but it is fully within the discretion of the selectmen to allow an exception. It can open the gate for further situations, but I also want you to consider the fact that other people have been more done more due diligence and have come to the town and found out that it does depend on these other things and have been turned down or made decisions to go in a different direction. And now they're gonna feel that they were had potentially because they did the right thing and checked with the town as well as the boat dealership. You know, what does it mean 180 horsepower? How are we determining it? And I would like to suggest that if you allow for a grandfathering situation, that it also require that it only be for this boat, that it allow for inspection and the Marine Patrol person be shown where the governor is to make sure that the governor is always there and it hasn't been removed.
Thank you. I don't know if adding the link to the linkage is something you can look. Sure. I don't know anything about it.
But otherwise you applaud your saying that, you know, going forward, it's we're gonna go with the objective standard, which is easy for Marine Patrol to apply and allow a boat to be launched or not launched. But, you know, basically, that was what was done in 1997 and in 2000 or whatever, so, it likely will be questioned again. We are working to, as you know, to get the ordinance changed. This hasn't been in the ordinance for a number of issues dealing with the jurisdiction between the DEP and the town.
Okay, thank you.
Is this a decision that has to be made tonight? Because I fully support the dyno. I think technology certainly has evolved in the past 25+ years, but we've got a clear policy that makes it clear that it's only by serial number. Like Mr. Beck had suggested, and LMAC is currently working on revisions to the policy. And I know, is that gonna be an opportunity where maybe further discussion can be on maybe putting clarification on the policy where, you know, there are situations where dyno can be determined, you know, or can be utilized, that just something that could be an option versus a one-off grandfather, because I believe, I would be in favor, but I wouldn't wanna go against the policy as written. I'd rather work towards updating the policy, bringing it in line with current technology and considering that dyno as an option for, you know, for detailing purposes. And for checking if we were to suspect someone on the lake with a 80 horsepower, that dyno at 110 horsepower, we at least would have a means where we could say, well, you violated the policy, even though your serial number says it meets 80 horsepower, you must have done some modifications. So that's what I'd recommend, is if we could work with the LMAC and maybe update that piece of the policy and put that on the road.
It's gonna take a while to get the ordinances up.
Well, aren't they already circulated? They've been circulating.
We provided drafts to you at the beginning of April, and the only reason we haven't been here to help you move it forward was we're waiting for the resolution of what was gonna happen with the gate situation, so that we could blend that into the ordinance.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, I'm Bob Powell. There has to be a level of agreement on what kind of inspection criteria is happening. State uses the boat identification number that's stamped into the hull of the boat. That is, you know, that's like a serial number for that boat. There's also a serial number for the engine. Okay, those are two acceptable means of identifying the type of boat and the type of engine and the horsepower of the engine. Those both are done by the manufacturer. Historically, there have been dealers in the state of Connecticut that have modified things illegally. They have issued illegal certifications of horsepower that then get passed on to the state. And from our experiences, it happened on our lake, where boats did not have the right horsepower, but the registration said they did. State police investigated those, they fined the dealers. So there's ways of jimmying the system, I guess is what I'm saying. So the only true method of identifying the real horsepower of an engine is by the serial number. You can't rely on what some guy says on one dynameter, some other guy says another dynameter. They can jimmy things, they can modify things, they can do whatever they can, but that's not the true way to measure the true horsepower of the engine. The other thing is that if you can detune an engine, you can take the restrictor plates off and to bring it right back up to 200 horsepower. I'm not saying this particular applicant is going to do that, but the possibility of somebody doing that can occur. It's very easy to do. So again, I think the best way is by using the existing methods of measuring horsepower, which is by the serial number of the engine.
Mr. Nazza.
Michael Nazzo, there's a bigger issue here, I think that, and we can certainly work with you on this, moving forward, but. One of the reasons why this is an issue is because the choice for inboard outboard engines. Under 150 horsepower, pretty much gone away with new boats. So we do need to, what you do here tonight may have bigger impacts down the road because it could be a hardship, if you will, for the availability of boats with inboard outboard engines that are under 150 horsepower.
That's why there's a choice between outboard and inboard.
Well, that was, I'm just saying the market has changed.
The market has changed, we're mostly outboard now.
So Dave Vanderbilt, 1387, the thing is, for pollution reasons, they stopped making the 4 cylinders, they went to 6 cylinders, and it's not economical for them to build a 4-cylinder and have it pass emissions. So that's the main reason they stopped. Well, I can't say it's the main reason, but one of the reasons they stopped. So you're only gonna be able to get a V6 now, as the smallest motor available on a new boat.
And what's the lowest horsepower on a V6?
225.
20.
It all depends.
Yeah.
Yeah, the older ones were as low as 175, but they can go up to 235.
Mary? Mary?
Oh, I'm sorry. I think there's a bigger picture here in terms of, or a bigger issue here in terms of if you increase the horsepower. And in 2023, this board chose not to when we started with this ordinance. And one of the major reasons is you increase horsepower, you are increasing the environmental impact negatively on the lakes.
I'm not trying to increase it here tonight, I'm not
So I
even
hope
discussing.
that this board isn't considering.
I'm not even.
And LMAC should take it back because the data has been updated. There are new studies and we need to understand what those.
I understand that. I've seen your studies. They're in depth. Okay, I get it. I see it. But when you're the last boat on the lake, because you gotta put together with barbed wire and duct tape and everything, because,
There are 16 other different brands of boats you can get. And it doesn't have to be just an inboard outboard. Outboards, pontoons, 150 horsepower diesel can be put in an inboard outboard. We did a similar thing when we chose to put 135 horsepower instead of a 200 horsepower. We chose a Merc Cruiser 135 engine serial number so that this lake would not suffer.
Mr. Beck?
I was just going to reiterate that there are voting options still available that are within our horsepower limits that allow the current use of Columbia Lake the way we know it.
Thank you. Judy?
I guess the way I'm looking at it is, we have the 150 horsepower, he's down to 135, do we, it sounds like there's a question, do we trust that he's gonna keep it at that? And a lot of stuff we do on the lake, we've gotta trust that people are gonna follow the rules. I guess I'm not, I don't like the idea of not doing something because we don't necessarily trust. Figuring out. But it is everything on the lake. Everybody even the fishermen getting on the lake, we have to be able to trust and make a big enough issue of it.
If we trusted everybody, then we wouldn't need marine patrol. I don't think you have to assume you can't trust people. Because everyone will take advantage. This person is taking advantage of the system right now.
I think we're looking at grandfathering and not making it for everybody.
Grandfathering doesn't exist in the state of Connecticut. Read it. Your town attorney said grandfathering does not exist in the state of Connecticut. It's not illegal entity. You can't grandfather. You can give them a courtesy, but you can't use the term grandfather. It's not legal. The other thing, I think, I would take exception, Steve, to the fact that you said this guy spent a lot of money. I don't think that's a legitimate cause for doing anything, just as in the zoning board of appeals, when you go to the zoning board of appeals and ask for permission to do something, you cannot use economic hardship as a reason for granting something. I don't think you should be able to use economic hardship in this case either, because like I say, I just spent $10,000, why can't I do it? I don't think that's a legitimate reason to allow a boat on a lake that does not meet the regulations.
And Stevens, Brent in the chat would like to speak.
Okay,
Folks, Brent Burnett, 206 Route 87. I know there's a lot of comment, there's a lot of passion around this, and I hear a lot of the concerns. I think the overall issue here is, does this particular boat fit on the lake? Yet we hear a lot of comments about the environmental impact and what that might do. I heard a comment that you can still buy a outboard. The majority outboards out there are not under 80 horsepower. Most of them are starting at 115. So I think that is misinformation I'd like to clarify out there. If you look at the recommended boats, I also think you have to consider, we talked about environmental impact. We're not really looking at, and we've heard from one person who's shown some studies. I have some very strong contradictory information to that, and it concerns me that we have all of these folks putting on older motors that are significantly more polluting. And that's, you can see, look at the studies, you can look at the reasons they changed the horsepower limits to go to 4-stroke engines, which are about 80% more efficient than the older motors we have. You also have folks that modify boats. I think there was one person who mentioned that they put a boat with a big boat on with a small engine. If you look at the environmental impact of that, it's detrimental. It makes a huge wake because you have to over horsepower, over rev the engines. You make a bigger wake, which are damaging all of our walls who live on the lake. It may not be a concern if you don't live on the lake and you have a boat, but those of us that actually are on the lake, these under horsepowered motors on bigger boats are causing a lot of damage. So not the issue for tonight. I think it's one particular boat we're trying to get on the lake. I support what that person's trying to do. We talk about modifications. You can easily modify a under horsepower motor to make it rev higher and go faster. It doesn't control the speed. I can take a 80 horsepower motor, put it on my little rowboat, and go 60 or 70 miles an hour on the lake. So none of that is a control factor. I think that's a larger issue for another day, but I'm hoping there's more than one voice heard when we discuss those issues, because I think there's a couple people, maybe one person who's extremely passionate about this issue, and it's overshadowing the rest of our opinions. And I think there is strong opinion to have this considered at a larger level. Thank you.
you have any comments for?
Yeah, I'm, it's May and I've, been on thin ice with, LMAC, but I'll express my opinions. I respectfully disagree with Chris on it. I think that to go back and study it right now is a mistake, because the fact that if it was January, it'd be another story, but we're in May right now, and as far as getting this boat in the water from a practical standpoint, I don't think it's a good idea. I feel that Mr. Sodergren has done due diligence in terms of coming to the town and trying to establish it. As far as the horsepower, what I hear from people here, I'm not an expert on this, but the dynamometer seems to be a reliable measure. He's measured the horsepower. It falls within the parameters of the town, so, and I'm not, entirely convinced that Mr. Sodergren's boat is gonna cause additional significant pollution to the lake. So I would support allowing him access to the lake.
Any more?
I'd really like to update the policy to clarify the dyno. I expect this.
I think you can update it, but I don't think in this particular case that it's the time to hold everything up.
Mr. Beck,
One of the problems with updating it on the dyno is Mr. Landis suggesting is the fact that I think there could be a problem of enforcement of trying to require somebody to take their boat and get a test.
Right, I said
I
that.
think
We
that,
can't
I
do
think that
I get it. I get it.
You have to send a motion.
I know. I got that. Okay. Mr. Sonic, I'm gonna put this to a vote to the board. But the caveat is gonna be this. Don't make me have a meeting with you next year. Okay? Yeah, good. So I make a motion to allow Mr. Sodergren to put his boat on the water. Any infractions? I make a motion to allow Mr. Sodergren to put his boat on the water. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Okay. Some resignations. Resignation of Tom Courier from the WRTD. Tom's been dealing with the WRTD for many years.
15 years.
Yeah.
And Rich Williams managing.
All those in favor of accepting his resignation? Opposed? Resignation of Jeff Vians from Five Pack. Jeff has moved out of town officially, and he has sent in his letter to be removed from Five Pack. Jeff's been on Five Pack for a number of years. He's been on a lot of different committees in town, and truthfully, he's been a lot of information and education for me. So I'm sorry to see that. All those in favor of accepting his resignation? Aye. Opposed? And no. Resignation of Lauren Haverman from the Board of Education. Okay, are we all set with this? Yeah. So all those in favor of accepting her resignation from the Board of Education? All right, opposed? Thank you. I move to appoint Steve Puro to the Recreation Commission. It's probably a common sense move. I've known Steve Puro. He's been involved with Little League and basketball. He's the AD at Porter. So I think he's another intelligent voice on the Rec Commission. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. I move to appoint Richard Williams to the WRTD, take over for Tom. That's nice when you can, somebody good can leave and somebody good can come on board, so. All those in favor? Aye. I move to approve Marine Patrol Officer appointments of Mr. Brian J. All, Jeff Morrison, Jody Gross, Lamont West, Ronald Smith, Thomas Griffith Jr. Okay, who's returning? Brian All, Jeff Morrison, Thomas Griffith. Anybody else returning in second year, third year, fourth year? Or the others are new?
If Jody goes to Lamont West, I think Lamont's new, and I think Jody might be new.
Who's Ronald Smith? New? Who's in charge of the group? Brian?
Brian,
He's met with.
yes, and they all have been interviewed by Jacob Plitt, and Jacob is in charge of them.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Town administrator's report.
I just thought it was interesting, we're getting ready to go out the bond, and put together a lot of financials that are now meeting tomorrow with our municipal advisor, Bill Lindsay. And just some of the information, I gave you the top businesses in Columbia. And you can see, OSWA, that actually represents, 3 retail businesses plus a 4th. There's the Batter's Box, John's Scrap Metal, Dunkin' Donuts, and, there's one other one, I forget what is it? Yes, right, thank you, Target, sewer septic supply. But, I also include, more information, so you know, a lot of times the owner's name is not recognizable, so what the property name, you would recognize as. And then I also provided for you the final report to the state for our ARPA funds and how we spend everything. There was a full accounting that's been submitted and complete. So that, I think you can see from this report that we did a lot of really great things for the town that'll help long-term in running our operation. And added amenities that the town's using quite a bit. And then next, I gave you the latest and greatest in the public hearing for planning and zoning and changes. If you look at the bottom right corner of every page, you can see what's been approved and what is still pending. So they've created another public hearing date moving forward. Which will be, it's not. I don't know which the next time they're gonna meet on that, but you can see pending, page 3 is pending, page 5 is pending, page 6 and 7 is pending. And 8, everything else is approved. So mostly it revolves around the minimum lot sizes and requirements for animals on properties. In Columbia. So they're still trying to get that, and there's more discussion going on. And also I want to give you an update. I heard back from Rob Smith, he's from the DOT. We had the public hearing on the mumble strips around 87. And whoever came on, I'll hear in a minute. But he confirmed me on the phone that they will not be installing the mumble strips based on the feedback from the public hearing. But their traffic operations group will follow up with us once they reevaluate what options they can move forward to the town as.
So I want to make a comment about that. I think I was online with that. That's the one you were at. I think it was 2 or 3 nights later, there was an accident down in that area again. And I won't identify him, but somebody said to me, this is one of those times where I'm wondering if it's better if the Board of Selectmen does what they believe is right without listening to the people who may be affected, think they're going to be affected by the noise. So I've been dealing with my wife, she had a knee replacement, I've been doing a lot of caretaking, I've not been in here as much as I could have been. I should have been in within a day or two to say, what's our next step with these mumble strips, because you just had an accident, another accident. And I didn't do that, so. I think if we went to the state and said, is there a way, I'd like to get contact on and say. That the first selectman would like to, if they can pinpoint a place that has these mumble strips. I'd like to drive over them. I'd like to hear them. Because honestly, I think that person is absolutely correct. Sometimes we're put in a decision where you have to make decisions that upset some people. But if it was my kid coming home from work at midnight, working at a restaurant or something, bussing tables, and somebody was on their phone and crossed over the line and hit him, I'd be upset. And it's a bad curve, that's why we went to the state. I'd love to hear more things at the state, but they said, the town has asked for this, they asked for this, they asked for this, so we brought them this. I wanna hear, so if we can find that out and see if,
I think, aren't the round stretch instead of making some of the main loops? No, I was over there, I thought there's some over there.
no, we did away with a passing zone there. They did away with the passing zone, but I went through Colchester today, and on every curve. On Route 16, I think,
Yeah.
every curve has a rumble strip in the center,
Too, yeah.
and then it opens up, paved, every curve, and I'm thinking. This place is all being built up with houses, and they still have these things, so I have a request, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Finally, you'll see in the paper that Beverly, Cirillo and I were interviewed about our budget. Fortunately, the interviewer, got a lot of things wrong. So don't be alarmed if you see numbers at departments that are misquoted. I don't even know if it's worth sending in a correction. You have to evaluate that, but the biggest driver of our budget is not the land use service department and the hiring of the town planner, so. I'll let you. It was a translation issue, we were having little problems. Marina is from France. So I don't know if that was a problem, but I just wanted to deal with it, yeah. That's all I have, Steve.
Okay, transfers, I move to approve the transfers as presented totaling $12,425. Yeah. They have this whole package in there?
Yes.
Okay, I'll let you see it. A lot of for energy to electricity.
And these are moved within departments, like the town clerk is upgrading their desks, but they use general supplies, conference seminars that they, we're not gonna use this year, some transportation money.
So they updated their office because they had extra money that they couldn't.
Well, no, they needed some more money in order to accomplish the upgrade of the office. So we've been upgrading the different offices. A lot of our desks are World War II vintage, and we're making them more ergonomically correct for the employees. So we do like an office here.
Right.
And then the rest are mostly electricity old charges that we had to handle and repairs and maintenance.
Any questions? All those in favor of the transfers? Opposed? Thank you. I move to approve refunds presented totaling $60.03. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. I move to approve the payment of bills totaling $146,599.16, consisting of 2024, 2025 emergency, 2024, 2025 regular, credit card, and paycheck. You know, it's consulting time with Novus.
Yes, that's for projects, so we contracted.
You guys sat in on a meeting last night for HVAC. How's it going? Oh, what is this?
You want to?
So they've been working the second shift. They've got a couple individuals that came in second shift. They're primarily working in a wing. But we did get a tour last night. We actually did see a couple of the classrooms where they actually have, set installed, so I know they're doing a lot of, the piping and installing equipment, primarily on the second floor right now, because it's really open, so if you were to go through, you'd see a lot of open ceiling where, you know, they're having to, measure still and determine the size of the ductwork and have the sheet metal, company, which I guess is local, to be able to precisely measure and make sure the alignment, they're not gonna, machine it or fabricate it, it's gonna, have to be modified because of piping, so that's a lot of what they're doing is
Okay.
setting up for that, so.
You can see
They are,
that.
they're making progress, so I mean, they do meet, I think you attend the meetings every couple of weeks, right? With,
Right, the 2:30.
which includes the fire marshal and, Mark and the whole team and Jim Russo and Silver Petroselli, and they go through schedules and whatnot, so, I understand the school's last day is the 12th.
Right, yeah.
So then, school a lot more available throughout the day in the summer.
Main thing, we wanna make sure all the electrical equipment's on order, and,
Right.
that was stressed, that we don't want to assume that because right now there are parts they think they can get in standard times, that standard time will exist. In a week, who knows what's going on worldwide. So big stress to get those on order immediately. And also to make sure the design of the transformer switch out with Eversource is approved. I guess the original design with the Eversource manager, that person retired and the new manager doesn't agree with his design. So we have to figure that out really quick. Our window of summer is upon us.
Okay. Can we vote on those?
I have not.
I made a motion though. Yes, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you, opposed, thank you. Audience of citizens. See you next week. Yeah,
2 o'clock, 24 double day. Has OMAC brought anything to the board about a study they want to pay for?
no,
They expressed the interest in doing that the last zoning meeting, and I just wanted to, what's my opinion against spending more money to study the lake when we already spend $50-something thousand a year. To me, if I may express my opinion, it appears to be a stalling tactic to stop zoning from changing the rules regarding livestock in the town.
thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody else, nobody online?
I don't think so.
Oh, Noreen Farrington, is she still with us?
Uh,
You should have, no,
And who's the other one?
no,
we really need to look at that more during the meeting.
well, what we need to do too is,
Can you make it so they can raise their hands? Sorry.
Yeah, they can do that. They can go down under more. Cause I did it and nobody saw my hand.
Yeah, I don't think they know they can.
well, the problem is,
Yeah.
there's a hand, Paul just showed you, but the problem is. Me trying to run a meeting and monitor all this is not easy, and then I also, eventually I'd like the board to weigh in on, I'd like to have everybody call our office to get a passcode to get into the meeting. Just, I had one gentleman, I mean, he came on, I thought I was gonna Zoom bomb because it was flesh colored, the whole screen, I thought, oh geez, so I didn't. But that's what I'm worried about too, I'm worried about Zoom bomb all the time. So, it's not easy.
It's happened. Okay, not seeing any more comments, board member comments? I got nothing, sorry. Great, so at this time, I'd like to suspend the board of selectmen meeting and move into executive session at what time, right now, 8:19.
Resume recording.
So at this time, we're exiting executive session at 8:26. And we're gonna resume the board of selectmen with no action taken, right? At this time, I would like to vote to adjourn the board of selectmen meeting. All those in favor? Aye, opposed? Thank you.